So we have x squared plus 48x plus 10. The game we're going to be playing is we're trying to find things that multiply to be this constant term, and then what adds to be this middle term. Okay. So what we do is we list out the factors of 10 and try to see if we can find something that adds to be 48. If we list these off, anytime I'm using these and all I have is positives on here, all I'm going to be concerned with is positives. So I'm just going to list off 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. That's the only positives that multiply to give me 10. But none of these add to give me 48. So what we're going to say is this thing is going to be not like. X squared plus 11x plus 28. Again, we're looking for what multiplies to give us this back term and adds to give us this middle term. So I'm going to go ahead and list off all the factors of 28. We have all positives again. So I'm going to write 28 here. And then we'll go down my list of factors. We got 1, 28, 2, 14, 4, and 7. And if we add these up, this one would give us 1 plus 28 is 29, 2 plus 14 is 16, and 4 plus 7 is 11. And that's the one we're looking for. I'm going to show you the long way how to do this, and then I'll show you how you can shorten it. Okay, so what's going to happen is the front term stays the same, the back term stays the same, and then this term will split into these two numbers. Notice that it has an x with it, so this is going to have to be 4x, and this is going to be 7x. If we add these back together, we see that we've recreated. So we really didn't do anything more to it than just split it into that, and this was kind of our guideline to do that. So now we're going to do our factor by grouping, which we learned in 13.1. We're looking for what these two have in common. Notice that this has 2 x's, this has 1 x, so they have an x in common. So we took, this is 2 x's, so we took one of the x's away, so there's still an x left behind on this term. We took this x away, so there's just a 4 left. Okay. Now we look at what we can divide both these by, and we say, oh, we can divide these by 7. And so if I take the 7 away, all that's left is the x. And if I do 28 divided by 7, that's going to be 4. Okay. Now these two match, just like we had this 7 that we pulled out of both these, it became 1. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to get the x plus 4 here. So we used both these two terms. And so all that's left is what was on the outside of these parentheses, which is that x plus 7. And we can double check this. If we do x times x, that gives us that x squared. And then x times 7 is 7x, and 4 times x is 4x, which combines to give us that 11x, and then 4 times 7 is 28, which is what we started with. Now the one thing you probably noticed is that we didn't even have to do these steps right here. We could have jumped straight from here to here because that's the answers that we got. And this only happens when you don't have your lead term doesn't have a coefficient, or your coefficient of your lead term is just 1. This is when this works. We should see some come about that have a lead term, and we're going to have to do them with this full process every time. I just wanted to show you it, that way you're ready to use it when it happens. And it doesn't matter the order that you actually put these things in. I could have put x plus 7 and x plus 4, and it would have counted just the same. So don't worry about your order. 11 squared minus 11x plus 28. So now we have not just positives like we've had in the past problems, we have a negative mixed in there. So when we're dealing with that, we got to think about a few things as far as what makes a positive when we multiply. Well, we know that a positive times a positive makes a positive. Now, since we have this negative on this middle term, it means that we're going to have some negatives somewhere in our problem. So if we know we're going to have a negative, that means that both of our numbers are going to be negatives. Okay? Which means that this is going to have to be a negative times a negative that gives us that positive. That way we'll end up with a negative number here. And we've already listed off what numbers give us 28 in our first problem. So let's just review that. And we'll know that we got a negative 1, and a negative 28, negative 2, negative 14, and a negative 4, and a negative 7. Now, just like we got in the last problem, we got that a negative or a positive 11 here. This is going to make for the negative versions of these because they're both negatives. Two negatives make for a bigger negative. So that's the one we're looking for. It's the one that gives us negative 11. We also learned that we don't have to do this middle process. Okay, so we can just say that our answer is just these things. So this trinomial is going to split into x minus 4 and x minus 7. This time we got 2x squared plus 18x plus 40. Now, this brings up a good point when we have trinomials like this that we're trying to factor and there are two linear factors. The thing that you want to ask yourself first, before you even start really any of these problems, is you want to ask yourself, is there a greatest common factor that I can take out of each one of these terms? And if you look at this one, you might go, oh yeah, I can see that everything can divide by 2. And so that's what we're going to do, is take out 2 or divide out 2 out of each one of these terms. So if we do that, here we get x squared left behind. And then 18 divided by 2 is 9x. And then 40 divided by 2 is 20. And now from here, we go through the same process of figuring out what multiplies to be this 20, but also adds to be 9. Now, we're going to list off what gives us 20. Factors give us 20. We know that, and this is all positive, so I'm just concerned about positive at this point. We got 1 and 20. We got 2 and 10. And our last set is 4 and 5. Now if we add these up, this gives us 21. If we add these two up, we get 12. If we add these two up, we get 9, which is exactly what we're looking for. So we want a positive 4 and a positive 5, which means this splits into x plus 4 and x plus 5. And don't forget, we did take out a 2, and we want to put that in front of there. So all this is our answer for this problem. Now we have 4x plus 17x. That's 15. So we do ask ourselves, is there a greatest common factor? And you go down the list and realize that you can't really take out any greatest common factors, so we're going to have to move forward with this problem. Now this one's a little bit different. We're actually going to add a little bit of a step from what we did in our second problem we tackled. do is we're going to multiply our lead coefficient, which is the number out in front of this lead term, and this back constant. We're actually going to take this negative with us too. So this is 4 times negative 15, which gives us a negative 60. Now we haven't had a negative product that we're trying to see what adds up to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and list off everything. Now we know to get a product of a negative number, we're going to need a positive and a negative number. And I'm going to teach you something where you'll know when you have this a negative in back that you're going to be multiplying that, but you're not going to need to do every set of negative and positive numbers, and we'll talk about that in a second after we list them all off. So let's go ahead and say that we got a negative 1 and a 60. Okay, now we also get the flip mode of that, so we get 1 negative 60. Then we get negative 2, 30, 2, and negative 30. And then we get 3, 20. We're going to make this one negative. And 3, negative 20. We have quite a list of numbers that we're creating here. So then we got negative 4, 15, 4, negative 15, and then we got 5, negative 5 and 12, 5, negative 12, 6, 6 and 10, and then 6, negative 10. Now remember, we're looking for the sum of 17. Now if we start going down this list, start adding these up. Negative 1 plus 60 is 59. And 1 plus negative 60 is negative 59. Now we're going to go down this list and we're going to find that whatever number is on this side, this is our bigger number, is going to determine if this is going to be positive or if it's going to be negative, right? So we can think about it in terms of this. We don't even have to do all the math here or even list anything if we kind of keep this principle in mind. Because this is positive, we want our bigger number to be positive. That way we get a positive sum. So all these ones where we have our bigger number being negative aren't even going to get us close to giving us a positive number. So there's no point in even adding these things up. There wasn't even a point of even listing these as a possible answer. So really we should have just listed it as I have here. Okay? If we keep going down the list, we're going to get a 30, and we can think about this like it's 30 minus 2, which is 28. That didn't get us there. And finally we've arrived here. 20 minus 3 is 17, which is what we're looking for. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to write our first term and our last term. And so our middle term is going to split into these two things. So we're going to have a minus 3x and then a plus 20. So once again, we do the factor by grouping. We'll put these two terms together. These two terms together. And think, what do these two have in common? Well, once again, there's no numbers we can divide out of them, but they do have an x in common. So we're going to put an x there. And what's left behind is 4x minus 3. And then we think about what can divide out of these. And you'll find that it's 5. And no variables are in common. This one doesn't even have a variable. If you want a little bit of a hint as far as what you can divide out of this, your end game is to make these things match. Okay, just like we had a match up in this one. Notice that these x plus 4 and x plus 4, so that's the game we're trying to play, is to make those parentheses match. So you're going to think, how can I get this to be a 4x? And you might even do 20 divided by 4, which would give you that 5. That's how you can figure that out. Just not doing it as far as doing this. So, proceed on 20x divided by 5 is 4x. And then negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. And look, we have the same thing. These two come out to form one parentheses, so we got 4x minus 3. And done with these, so now we're just left with x plus 5. Now we have 8x squared plus 10x minus 7. So now what we're going to do, apply this one. This gives us negative 56. Okay. And now we're going to list off our terms. Remember, we don't even have to do half of them as far as the negatives and positives because we want our bigger number to be positive because this middle term is positive. So I know that I'm going to do negative 1, 56. All my negatives are going to be on that left side. Negative 2, and 28. 3 doesn't work. Negative 4, and 14. 5 doesn't work, 6 doesn't work, and then we just got negative 7 and 8. So if we start adding these up, we're just doing the subtraction. We're going to have 55, 26, and that gets us to that positive 10 that we're looking for. So here's our answer here. That gives us 1, so that doesn't work. We have 8x squared. Negative 7. So our middle term is going to split into this, so we got minus 4x and plus 14x. Factor by grouping. So then we can divide both these by 4. They also have an x in common. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. We have 2 of those x's. We took one of them away, so there's still an x left on that term. This is negative 4x divided by 4x. So 4x divided by 4x would be 1, since this is a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So this is negative 1. And think about this one, 14 and 7. These both can be divided by 7. And so 14 divided by 7 is 2. We still got our x. Negative 7 divided by positive 7 is negative 1. So these match again. We get 2x minus 1. And we're done with those. So then we just have 4x plus 7. That's our other set. You are more than welcome to try to see if this works out still, because you can do 2x times 4x is 8x squared. 2x times 7 is that 14x. Negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x. You see those can combine and recreate that. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. It's always good to double check what you've done. So, and you're more than welcome to do that with any other one we've done. We have 6x squared is 51x plus 24. So, once again, our very first step is try to see if we have a greatest common factor. And these do divide by something, and you'd almost hope it would be 6, but 6 doesn't work. But the number that does is 3. Okay. And we don't have a regular we can pull out. This one's actually absent of any variable. So let's pull what's left behind. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. Still got our x squared there. 51 divided by 3 is 17. Still got our x, and then 24 divided by 3 is 8. So we're going to take this and multiply it by this to see if we can break apart this trinomial. This gives us 16. All these are positives. We know that 1 plus 16 gives us 17. So we found it pretty fast. So let's break this apart into 1 and 16. So our first term stays the same. Because I did take out this 3, one little trick I do, that way I don't have to just keep up with it. I just draw an arrow saying I'm going to put this thing down here. Okay. And it'll kind of remind me, hey, I need to re-add in this 3 because it was our greatest common factor. And that's still a part of it. So we have 2x squared. We got our 8 here. And this splits into 1 and 16. So this is just plus x, right? The 1 is just understood to be in front of that. And then we have plus 16x. Alright, so factor by grouping. The thing that we have in common here is an x. And all that's left behind is 2x. Then x divided by x is 1. We can divide both these by 8. And so 16x divided by 8 is 2x. And then 8 divided by 8 is 1. Notice these are the same, so 2x plus 1 comes out. We're done with these two. And then all that's left behind is our x. That's 8. Remember we have this arrow here saying, hey, we still need this 3. So we're going to put it out in front of our parentheses here. Alright, this time we got 70u to the 4th plus 115u to the 3rd plus 15u squared. So we got a lot of stuff going on here. And so our very first step is to try to take out a greatest common factor. Now if you're looking at these, this ends with a 0, 5, and a 5. So this should, and actually we should at least be able to take out a 5. Okay. And now if we look at our u's, our variables, we got u to the 4th, u to the 3rd, and u squared. Now we can only take out, and we're limited by our smallest amount, so the most we can take out is u squared. So once we divide this out of here, 70 divided by 5, that is 14. Let's do the u squared. 115 divided by 5 is 20. 3u, and 15 divided by 15u squared divided by 5u squared is 3. So once again we'll do 14 times 3, our b coefficient, our back constant. 14 times 3 is 42. So these are all positive, so we're just going to go down our list. 1 and 42, 2 and 21, and we've already found it. Let's put this middle term into that. So we got, I draw my arrow down saying, hey, we're going to need this later. 14 squared plus 3, and we got plus 2u. 1 u. So Some people might ask, hey, can I switch these up? You certainly can. If you'd rather group the 21 with this one, do it that way, everything's going to work out just fine. So these can totally be interchangeable. Let's group these together. So we can divide these both by 2. And they both have a u. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 2 u's, we took 1 away, so there's still a u left. 2u divided by 2u is 1. And divide these both by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. We still have a u. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay. We got our 5u that we're going to write out in front. We have these in common, the 7u plus 1. Use those. And the only thing that's left